British North America was rice. It arrived here about 1685 on a ship that had been crippled in a hurricane. The ship got its repairs, and then the captain paid the colonial governor of Carolina with a barrel of rice from Madagascar. The English colonists did not know much about planting rice, but before long there were enslaved laborers from Gambia, Sierra Leone, and Senegal who had rice culture in their history and background. They literally changed the coastal topography of Carolina colony by digging the rice ponds and irrigation trenches. They knew how to control the flow of the salt water at tide so that they could trunk them off with large gates, and the rice became the most profitable crop ever grown in the state of South Carolina. The Carolina colony was established as a gift of gratitude from King Charles II of England. You see, he never expected to be king because his father, Charles I, had been executed. Carolina colony was everything south of British Virginia, everything north of Spanish Florida, from the Atlantic Ocean to the South Sea, which we call the Pacific Ocean. Us, which we call South of Broad. You will see beautiful homes there, and we affectionately call that side, the people who live there, SOB. On the other side, it's slightly north of Broad, slightly SNOB. Okay, that's what you are if you live there. Now, you may notice the beautiful flower boxes. Today, they are just for their beauty, but at one time, they would have had the flowers and plants very aromatic so that the breeze would bring that aroma into the house, and you wouldn't have to worry about the smells. Now, Charleston is known as the Holy City because its provincial charter allowed for religious toleration, so all faiths were allowed here except until after the Revolution, the Roman Catholic. And it is most unusual to have a home of a Constitution signer still in your city. There are only 11 homes of Constitution signers that are still left in the United States, and at least 2 of them are in Charleston. You'll see the artisans on the right side of the bus. Those are artisans are from the Gullah Geechee community, and they are making sweetgrass baskets, sweetgrass, bulrush, longleaf pine needles, and palmetto fronds. The Circular Congregation Church is the 4th on this site. The original one was called the Old Meeting House. The Old Meeting House, Old White Meeting House, was where the Quakers, the Methodists, and the Presbyterians all met at alternate times. They would tell people to come to meeting, and as a result, this street is called Meeting Street.
1788, Charles Pinckney ceded land to the city to use as a public market. He stipulated that the land must remain in use as a market in perpetuity. The sheds have survived fires, tornadoes, earthquakes, hurricanes, and even bombardment. The market hall was erected in the 1840s and was used by the market commissioners for meetings and social functions.
And we always hope you eat well. As we get through the intersection is the historic Charleston Firehouse. This firehouse at one time had horse-drawn fire wagons, but today we have itty-bitty custom-made fire trucks that fit in here. So when we go by, if the doors are on the bays are open, you can see one of those fire trucks. Who, along with his compatriots, would hide in the swamp from the British during the American Revolution, and the British thought he was so tricky to nicknamed him the Swamp Fox. 1990s, the city leaders and the Jewish community installed Holocaust Memorial. It looks like a burned out synagogue with a fallen prayer shawl on the ground. So here's the Holocaust Memorial. Look through, you see the original citadel. It became the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina in 1842, which now resides on the banks of the Ashley River. On these oak trees in the park, if you'll notice on their branches, you'll see what looks like ferns. Well, it is ferns. Those ferns are nice and green because we recently had rain. That fern, when we don't have rain for several days, will turn brown and crunchy and look like it's all died. But the moment we get a little bit of rain, it flushes back out to bright green.
1886 big earthquake.
Because of that, Charleston was very concerned about the buildings, especially this one on the right, Grace Episcopal Cathedral, which found she was not connected properly to her foundation. They had to abandon the building for several years while they connected her back again. Earthquake that had its epicenter in Washington, D.C. in 2011. Grace found out she still wasn't connected to her foundation, so she had to abandon for another year while that was rectified, and today we all hope Grace has a firm foundation. And all of these are Charleston single houses, left and right. They have long piazzas on the front of the house. Yep, that's the front. That looks like it's facing to the side. And they have a solid wooden door on the ground level piazza. That solid wooden door acts as a privacy screen, and so it is called a screen door. The entrance to the house is in the center of the piazza. The college uses all of these houses as part of their offices and dormitories and fraternity and sorority houses. 3, built by Gabriel Manico. He was considered a gentleman architect because he did not have a professional credential. This is in the Robert Adam style, or Adamesque style. It is very balanced and symmetrical. It is made of handmade brick. This brick is called Charleston gray. I know it is red. Gray is the density. It's much more brittle. Walls. That earthquake of 1886 damaged so many places that the engineers of Charleston determined that you could push a giant screw through the floor joists, put a washer and a bolt on the outside and tighten them up, and you could save those buildings. Those are earthquake scored to look like stone, because stone by the 1820s was considered more elegant. The reason it is not made of stone is we have no stone or rock native to the Low Country. We do have cypress, we have pines, we have oaks that you can make a wooden house, but no stone or rock. It was very expensive to bring it in, but to make it look that way, they just scored the stucco. This is made out of brick, handmade brick again. It is kept as is. This has never been restored, and people lived in it until the 1970s. The unpainted portions are this side would have been the stable. The other side that you'll see when you look had the kitchen house and the laundry, and the upper portion would have had the enslaved quarters. On average, Charleston is not higher than 10 feet above sea level on average, and so we have what is known as nuisance flooding. From time to time, we will have water pushed back into the streets from the storm sewers and flood some of our city streets, sometimes with more than 3 feet of water. The that I'm wearing is the color of our state flag, and they do typically, by the enslaved people's quarters, they typically have some specimen growth there, so you might be able to see what indigo looks like. For anyone who's too delicate, I apologize. That's called urine. That's what it's degenerated with, and then it is pounded and dried into bricks. It's reconstituted with water and makes a very vibrant blue dye. Really profitable here in the Low Country. And Eliza Lucas, as a young woman here, a young single woman, was taken under the mentorship of Charles and Harriet Pinckney. After Eliza arrived, she took Eliza into her confidence and told her that should Charles ask and should Eliza accept, that it would honor Harriet's memory if Eliza were to marry him if he proposed. Well, it took several years after a couple of years after her death, and Charles did propose to Eliza, and she becomes Eliza Lucas Pinckney, which is how most people in the history books remember her. Eliza Lucas Pinckney becomes the mother of 2 signers of the Constitution, Charles Cotesworth Pinckney and Thomas Pinckney. A little male hawk. Beautiful. Sea island cotton was grown on the sea islands here. It would grow 8 to 10 feet tall and could be harvested 3 to 4 times in a season. It was the best cotton ever grown anywhere. It was very profitable, again, until after the American Civil War, when it was less profitable because of the change in labor. But after, and by the 20th century, in 1919 or so, the boll weevil destroyed it, and everybody thought sea island cotton was extinct. As it turns out, it wasn't extinct. The 12 seed were stored at the USDA seed bank at Texas A&M. This is a 2.5 mile long, 8-lane wide bridge that was opened in 2005 to replace the original Grace Bridge from 1929, Pyramid Bridge from 1966. You also have Castle Pinckney right in the center of the river there. That's Castle Pinckney next to Schutt's Folly. Castle Pinckney was named for Charles Cotesworth Pinckney. At the mouth of the harbor, 3 miles out, you have Fort Sumter. And you have a variety of military aircraft on the Yorktown and in the Yorktown.